in the last lecture, we were discussing about the regulation of the European Union. What are the European Union regulations are there regarding the different kind of the toxicological compound? When we will discuss about the mercury, and we have also discussed about what are the different limits of the mercury that can be used for the barometer and for the thermometer. So today we will discuss about what is the particular ppm which is required for the tuna fish, and it is actually equivalent to the 0.05 part per million. So we will discuss about what are the regulations for the mercury, what are the regulations for your other toxicological compound. So in the last class, we have discussed the bifurcated manner of the food. What are the dairy products, which includes the limit in the United States, in the United Kingdom, and in the Japan. So now we will look into the another aspect of it, and that is actually the lead. So lead is very important in the terms of your toxicological compound, and it will give you an appropriate idea what kind of the toxicological compounds it is going to deliver and how can we remove it. So we have to understand the lead. So what about the lead? Lead actually can damage the nervous system of a person or a human being. It can also having a certain disorders in the terms of your brain, in the terms of your dizziness. It is not only causing inverse effect to the human, it is also causing the inverse effect to the animals also. So this has been testified on the basis of the dose response curve, which we have already discussed. And in the coming class, we will also discuss what is the dose response curve, what is LD50, and what is LD30. So because these are also very important parameters, so we will look into these parameters. Now, there is one good example which I would like to take as a case study for the lead, and we will discuss in the next class also. So now we are going to understand what is the consequences of the lead on a child and on an adult. So here you can see on your left side of your screen, the child different stages are there up to the final stage, which is your death, and how the concentration of the particular lead is going to vary pp per dl. So on the right side of screen, you can see the adult. So it is going to be start with the learning disability for a child, and it is going to be the next stage with the attention of the IQ deficit, means the second stage is the disorder in the IQ of a child. Now third stage would be your headache or seizure pain there, and the fourth stage would be your hearing growth can be obstructed. Now last stage is your anemia, and before that is the hemoglobin. So all these aspects you can learn before a child. So how the child cognitive thinking is going to be affected with the lead, also it is going to be affected their physical and the mental problems. Now coming to the right side. So on the right side you can find out the adult. So how the adult are going to be affected with the lead. So there are certain problems with the adult. So it is going to be started with the 10, and it is going to up to 50, which is your reflecting the hemoglobin level. So how it is going to be affected to the adult? So it is starting from the same step, which is the hypertension, and it is going up to the hemoglobin level, which is your last stage. So we will discuss in the later class about it. But before that, we have to understand how it is going to be vary in the different food ranges. Because for us being a food technologist, we have to look into this aspect of your different cereal pulses, and how these cereal pulses are going to be affected, how the meat is going to be affected, how the egg and vegetables are going to be affected, and the cane food is going to be affected, because all these are the food which is consumable by most of the human, and the number of the frequency of eating these food is very high. So that's why we have to try to understand what are the different food items which has to be the problem of the lead. Now you can see on your screen, this is a mean lead level in the food. So there are different food items, and their level of the lead is given, and how much the lead is going to be affected or will not cause any inverse harm health effect on the human body, that we will understand. So what are the regulations? So coming to the regulations, first we have to understand the TWI. TWI is your tolerable weekly intake. So how much weekly intake a person can take whenever the person is going to deliver or taking these in their food or consumption in their daily food items. So let's try to understand the applications. The applications are in the solder for the electronics. So many electronic instruments are there where the lead is to be used, and lead is an integral part of the alloy of the solder. So we have to keep the children away from the electronics item. So that is very recommendable on the electronics item. Now second is your tennis racket. That is also a one of the component of the lead, and PVC, lead paint, and containing the gasoline. So all these are examples or applications of lead material. Now, what are the adverse effects of the lead which can cause the toxicity to the human body? So these are the particular effect on the human body when the lead is going to be inhaled or lead is going to be taken or absorbed by the human body. First is your blood pressure. Second is your anemia problem. Third is your brain damage problem. Fourth is your kidney damage problem. Fifth is your miscarriage. Sixth is your reduce of fertility of the males. So all these problems coming into the picture whenever a person is going to consume the lead in their food beyond the tolerable weekly intake or 8.1 microgram per day. So according to the European limit, its limit they have given 0.02 ppm in the milk, means in the milk it should not be go beyond of that. In baby food, while in the meat it should be around of your 0.1 pp, and in the cereal it should not be greater than 0.02 or 0.2 on the cereals. Now coming to the cadmium, that is also one of the heavy metal, and it is generally found in our food items also. So how it is going to be cause a problem and where it is distributed in the environment. So due to the extensive industrial use, it is widely found in the environment, and from the environment it is coming to the human source. Whether it is your soil, whether it is your water, whether it is your air. So many factors are causing the problem of coming of the cadmium in our environment. So sewage sludge, which is used as a fertilizer and the soil conditioner, is an important source of the pollution with the cadmium. So you can find out the sludge. Sludge is what? Whenever the ETP plants are there, or whenever the sewages, whenever the plants are there and their pollution is there in the form of the water. For example, if the meat plant is there, they generally used to discharge that sewage into the river. So whatever the sludge is there, in that if cadmium is present, it is going to be coming to the environment through the soil. And through the soil, it can be come through the water also. And second is your fertilizers and soil conditioners. Now in this slide, you can find out how the cadmium in the food is going to be affected. Now we can see they are using microgram per 100 gram. On the left side of your screen, you can find the class of the food. So we have given the dairy product, we have taken the meat, fish and poultry product, then we have taken the grain and cereal product, then potato we have taken, leafy vegetables, legumes, root vegetable. So these are the products which we have taken, and on the right side you can find out there is a range. Average range is given year by year or decade by decade. So you can see from 1972 to 1976 how this range or the average range has increased. For example, for the dairy product, the average range earlier was to be 530, or it is now your 320. So that's why I'm saying its range is going to be affected as the pollution is increasing into the environment. Now, main cadmium level in the food. So how the cadmium level is coming into the food? That is of your two things. First is your sun food or cocoa powder, and second is your natural protein serving. So these are the things which they have taken, and the maximum amount of the mineral they have taken in the form of the result. So you can find out in the ounce what amount is going to be detected or it is going to be harmful. So here you can find out here the limit is of around of 60, which can cause the adverse health effect to the human body from the lead. Now coming to the cadmium. Cadmium accumulates in the human body, especially in the liver and the kidney. So cadmium is particularly prone to get into the liver and the kidney. The reason behind is that the liver and the kidney contains the fat, and that fat can easily accommodate the cadmium. The fat has a tendency to easily store the cadmium, and this can cause a very adverse effect on our body. So whenever the person is obese, they have more chances of accommodation of this cadmium into their kidney fat or the liver fat. So looking to the toxicity, it reduces the body height and the multiple fractures or hypertension. So these are the consequences which could be there from the cadmium. First is your toxicity, which is related with the body height, or it can be related with our height or weight ratio. Second is your hypertension is one of the cause of that, and this is one of the case which is given where in Japan the cadmium intoxications were found, and this toxication was found in the Japan. And what happened? The rice heavily contaminated with the environment pollution of the 0.1 to 1 milligram per day. So this was the exceeding limit which was found in the Japan, particularly with the rice. Now you can think or you can ask a question, how it is coming into the water? It is coming into the water with the help of the flow of the sewages. Now in this slide, you can find out the pie graph. On the pie chart, you can easily segregate it how or which major sources are there which are causing the cadmium or which are causing our reason to come the cadmium into the environment or our food chain. So you can find out the most one is your batteries. You can see the blue color. Here most of the time the blue color is responsible for coming of your cadmium into the environment. Second one is your pigment, which is your 11% of the sources. Third is your coating, and then stabilizers. So you can find out stabilizers are your PVC, polyvinyl chloride. So these are the stabilizers which are generally used as a coating material or and the paints also. Then is your coating, which is your aluminum coating, is generally preferred in the electronics industry. Fossil fuels are also one of the problem of the cadmium. And the pigments. What kind of the pigments? Cadmium pigment, which are bright yellow, or it is specifically found in the ceramic glass. Now, what are the regulations for the cadmium? So we will understand what are the regulations for the cadmium. FDA has given the regulation in which 3.7 to 14.4 microgram per day we can take. Means it is the range in which the person does not have any adverse health effect. And the tolerable weekly intake means the average of a week cannot be exceed beyond the 0.4 to 0.5 milligram of the drinking water. So whenever the BIS, which is your Bureau of Indian Standard, is going to make any standard relating with your water or the drinking water or the tap water, then they have to take care in their testing, or whenever they are going to for the testing, they have to take care that the water cadmium limit is not going beyond the 0.05 milligram per liter. Because as you know, recently in Delhi, out of 29 tests, it failed in 27 tests. The tap water of the Delhi failed in 27 tests. That is a very big issue and a very big problem for the country and as well as for the human as well. Now in the Europe, what are its limit in the meat? In the meat, its limit they have defined around 0.05 ppm, and in some fishes and the cereal it is around 0.01 part per million, and it is in the spices around 0.05 to 0.02 ppm. So these are the European regulations which are given for the meat, which are given for the fishes, which are given for the cereals, and also for the spices and vegetables. Now, toxic phenolic substance. What are the toxic phenolic substance? Phenolic compound are those in which benzene group is there and one OH group is present. Those are known as the phenolic compound. Now, contribute to the bitter taste, flavor, color, etc. Means the phenolic compound are responsible in the food for these particular odors or bad odors, which include your bitter taste, flavor, and the color. Phenolic acids, these are the generally phenolic acid due to which the phenolic substance make the total phenolic substance. It includes your flavonoid, it includes your lignin, it includes your gallic acid and tannins. So highly toxic phenolic substance, which is your curcumin, saffrol, phenolic substance and amines. These are your highly phenolic toxic substance which are present in the food items, and these has to be reduced, particularly with the phenolic substance which are related with the non-natural sources. Now, what are the flavonoids? Flavonoids are the plant pigment that are widely present in the human, and most are present in the form of the beta glucosides. So, beta glucosides you can see as a linkages in the graph or in the diagram or figure, which you can see on your screen. In the central portion, the structure of the flavin is given. As you can see, the numbering is given 2, 3, 4, that epoxy bond is there. Then this is the basic flavonoid, and from this basic flavonoid you can see there are the derivatives. The derivatives are like your anthocyanide, then your flavanols. In flavanols, double bond O is there. In flavanols, with the double bond OH group is there. Then flavanonins, in which the benzene group is going to detach. Then your chalcotrins, these are having the additional OH group. So these are the dividation which is given in the flavonoid. First is your flavonon, second is your flavon, third is your anthocyanide, fourth is your isoflavone, and fifth is your chalconon, and sixth is your aron. All the structures have been given in your diagram, so you can refer to this diagram. And what is the difference? The difference is only of the OH group, double bond O group, and the position of the OH group with respect to double bond O or the epoxy group. And the limit of the diets, it should not be more than 1 gram of the ingested daily in the diets. Now we will look into further of these structures. So now on your screen you can easily visualize what are the flavonon, what are the anthocyanins, what are isoflavone, and what are your flavone only. So already we have discussed the structure, but here you can see specifically the anthocyanide. Now in the anthocyanide you can find how the R1 and R2 and R3 are going to vary with respect to the OH group and the Cl group. So these are the positions which are going to be changed, and generally whenever in the numbering system we will take the functional group first and then we will start the numbering. Now natural sources of the flavonoid. What are the different natural sources of the flavonoid? Because what is going to be happen, most of the flavonoid compound we are taking from the nature, particularly with the fruits and the vegetables, because it is going to be provide a beneficial role in the human also. So you can take certain example like apple, apricot, blueberries, raspberries, black beans, cabbage, onions and tomato. So all these contains your natural source of the flavonoid. As you can see, the strawberries, they are also contains, and pears also contain. But how much the amount? That is very important. how much the amount of the flavonoids from these natural sources can be taken. So that we have to understand, and it is given it is given like 2 milligram of the Nobitalene per 100 ml of the oil and 0.3 milligram of the Tangratin per 100 ml of the oil. So these are the two ranges which we have to take care, and particularly it can be extracted from the orange peel also. So thank you so much. But before that, I would like to conclude the lecture again. Okay, so first of all, we have discussed about the regulations. What are the regulations of the European Union has been given for the heavy metal, particularly with the mercury. So be remember of these things. For the battery, they have given less than 1000 of the ppm. For the barometer, they have recommended less than 5 ppm, and they have also given the limit of for the tuna fish also, because from the aquatic animal it has been coming. Now then we have read the classification in the food. What can be the classification for the cereal? What can be the classification for your dairy product? What can be the classification for your fruits? Then eggs. So you can see this study. In this study they have taken the examples of your United States, United Kingdom and the Japan. So these are the three nations whom examples they have taken for this particular study. Now we have also discussed about the lead. What are the different adverse health effects on our body? How it is going to be give the poisonous effect for the humans and the animal. And in this slide we have discussed what are the different stages for a child when it is going to get the exposure of the lead, for the child and for the adult. So these are the different stages with respect to the doses have been mentioned in the slide. So you can refer to this slide and can understand that how the dose is going to be affect the different stages for the child and the adult. And this is the graph depicting the same thing but in the range and the mean form for the different kind of the food. It includes your wide range of your food, including your milk, including your skimmed and dried milk, tea leaves, cocoa. So this is also one of the chart which we have discussed for particularly about the level of the lead. Then regulation we have discussed of the FDA. We have discussed the regulation in the terms of your tolerable weekly intake TWI. We have also discussed for the drinking water also. Then we have discussed about the toxicity, how the toxicity is going to be happen, and what are the adverse consequences of the toxicity for it. Then we have discussed what are the limits given by the European Union, what are the limits given for the. Then we have discussed about the cadmium, and we have also discussed how the cadmium is going to be coming from environment to our food item. So it can be your sludge also, fertilizer or soil conditioner. Now cadmium accumulates in the human body, and I told you about the fat, because the fat is very prone to get into the cadmium and store the cadmium. So I discussed about the toxicity on the human body, how it is going to be give the adverse health effect to the human body, and the multiple factors and the hypertensions that we have also discussed. And we have also discussed the case of the Japan. The Minimetia case is there, where the Minimetia case is for the mercury. This case we have discussed for the rice, where the limit is going to vary from 0.1 to 1 milligram per day. Then we have discussed the cadmium application, how the cadmium application is going to vary, and from how the source are going to vary. The major sources is battery, then pigment, then coatage, then stabilizers. You can see in your pie chart also. Then we have taken the regulation of the FDA here and tolerable weekly intake also. Then toxic phenolic substance. So what are the toxic phenolic substance? We have taken the like flavonoid, lignin, gallic acid, tannins. So here I have discussed the 6 different groups of the flavonoid. which are your flavonol, flavone, anthocyanide, isoflavone, catechin, and your orezone. So you can see or figure out the structure of these in the diagram which is mentioned here as a figure. And then also we have taken the structure of the anthocyanide, how it is varying the chlorine on the first group and how it is going to be vary on OH group.
Metal. Cadmium is very deadly to your kidneys. It can cause permanent kidney failure. But it takes a lot of cadmium accumulation over time to have that kind of result. Cadmium also affects skin health and can cause many, many skin disorders. It's bad for the lungs and bone. But what's not even listed on this chart is that cadmium causes personality changes. This is what's really fascinating about cadmium. Cadmium is actually a stimulant. And a lot of people don't know this about heavy metals, but mercury, for example, was used as a medicine for many, many years by physicians. They would have people inhale mercury vapors, and they would use mercury salts as a form of medicine. This was actually used to treat diarrhea or to treat viral infections, lots of different things. And the reason that mercury was so successful as a medicine, I mean, it's actually mentioned in some of the old Merck medical manuals, it was used by doctors for I don't know, decades, many, many decades, is because mercury actually stimulates you. It feels like a little energy boost at first. It feels like you're getting better. And cadmium has a similar kind of effect. So if you take in cadmium, you get a surge. What's interesting about this is that cadmium is a very common contaminant in coffee. So a lot of people who drink coffee are actually addicted to cadmium. Yeah, I'm going to say that again because most people don't get that. The reason people drink coffee is not just the caffeine. Many people are actually addicted to cadmium. They need a surge of cadmium. Now, cadmium turns you into a bully. It turns you into an aggressive person. It gives you a very male, macho type of profile. It's great for people who are, let's say, day traders on Wall Street, or people who want to push other people around, people who scream a lot, people who are angry a lot. They tend to be cadmium addicts. But at the same time that it's altering their personality, it's also hardening their arteries. Cadmium is a metal that actually creates a hardening of the personality and a hardening of the physiology at the same time, which is one of the ways in which it causes renal failure, kidney problems. So cadmium is very important to avoid, and it's found, in fact, by the way, here in this Pocari cacao powder at some level. It's commonly found in cacao and coffee. So that's something you really would like to avoid, I would say. Mercury, very toxic heavy metal, neurotoxic, affects babies, developmental toxin. It's also very toxic to your neurology, and many people believe that it is linked to autism as well, which is why vaccines that contain mercury may very often be linked to autism. In fact, let me prove to you that vaccines still contain mercury, because many people have been lied to by the vaccine industry and told that, well, all the mercury's been removed. Really? Well, then why does the CDC, right here on its vaccines additive page, which I'm going to show you right here, this is the CDC, sorry, I'm showing you videos in the background there. This is a CDC webpage, cdc.gov, Ingredients of Vaccines Fact Sheet. If you scroll down, oh, here it is. Common substances found in vaccines include thimerosal is a mercury-containing preservative. Right there. There you go. Oh, also, if you want a little formaldehyde in your blood, which is suicidal, you can get a vaccine. Or if you want to shoot up some MSG, yeah, go get a vaccine. If you want antibiotics injected in your bloodstream, just get a vaccine. Or how about some aluminum, for your brain? Yeah, go get a flu shot. That'll give you more of that. So there you go. So mercury is actually in vaccines, and it's very highly toxic. Oh, in fact, look at this. Here's an article on autism and mercury toxicity. So let's go to the next toxin. Oops, here we go. Come on. Heavy metals. Lead. All right. Now, lead has a very large range of toxic effects in the human body. As you can see from this chart that we put together for you, it affects kidneys, heart, brain, bones, especially bones. intestines, reproduction, many things. Let me talk about bones here for a second, though, because when you take in a lot of lead, it obviously goes through your intestinal walls and then goes into your bloodstream. From your blood, then the lead is typically transported into your bones. Lead has a high affinity for calcium because of the ionic profile of calcium and lead tend to be mutually attractive. And you can see that from the periodic table of elements, by the way, calcium right here and lead being over here. They have opposite charges typically, and they want to combine in many molecules. So where you find calcium, you're actually going to find typically, oops, that's mercury. Typically, you're going to find some amount of lead. That's why some calcium supplements, by the way, are contaminated with lead. That's been well documented. But a lot of the lead ends up in your bones. Now, it will stay in your bones for decades, typically. So a lot of women, once they reach an age where they start to experience menopause and their hormones start to really shift around, they will start to actually dissolve bones more aggressively than when they were younger. They will begin to release lead from their skeletal structure. I guess I should be pointing over here. And once they release lead from their skeleton during these hormonal changes, they will actually create acute lead toxicity in their circulating blood, which then can further affect their heart, their kidneys, and even their brain. So you actually have a repoisoning effect of lead. If you were exposed to high levels of lead when you were younger, and remember there was lead in gasoline in the United States for many decades. It was called leaded gasoline, if you remember, back in the 70s and 80s and long before that. I think they started